Boom. 1, 2. There we go. In the room. Hello everybody. Welcome to the live stream podcast. Hope you're well. How's it going? Welcome to Politics and Culture and some other shit. The podcast, the live stream. Like, share, subscribe. Come over to the YouTube if you're not here already. And if you're listening to this on your podcast app, do the thing. Share it. It would really help. So how are you? Hope you are well. I'm good. My foot's getting better. I know that you're all madly concerned. You're consumed with concern about my my ankle because I sprained it. But I'm healing quick. So I got the X-ray last week, and it's not broke. There's a wee bit of bone come off, but I think it's okay. I was hobbling about in crutches for a few days, but I'm walking about normally now. It's healing fast. But yeah, and I have to go to physio on Friday, and it should be back. I'm working out again. I've started doing some weights and kettlebells and things. I jumped on the turbo trainer in the garage, the bike thing. Did a wee half hour yesterday. It was a bit sore, but not too bad. It was okay. I didn't go mad. Sort of just give it about 80% effort, you know, rather than the usual, just to see how I was feeling. Oh, my hair, Jesus Christ. Just to see how I was feeling. So, yeah, all good. Getting better. I'll be fine. Tomorrow, I'm going to be going for a swim tomorrow in the loch with Darren Matthews is coming down, and my brother. He lives here in Lurgan too, but we're all going to go. We're heading out for a wee swim in the loch tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. If anybody wants to join us, you're more than welcome. Of course, you're all welcome. And it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. So I can still work out. I can still do a bit, you know, and that's important to me. I need to be able to do that. There was about a week there. I did a wee kettlebell thing routine last week. Routine, like I'm fucking dancing, but I did some stuff last week, and it was a bit sore. I didn't go mad, but it's important for me to be able to do that. So I can do a few things, and I'm missing out. I'm not going to be able to do an awful lot for a while, but it's okay as long as I can do something. That's the main thing. Unfortunately, the football. I'm not been playing football for a bit. That's looking increasingly less likely as time goes on. My whole knee, I'm starting to look at my whole leg as a rehab job. I'm going to have to start. It's boring and complicated. I won't even go into it with you. But so I started the thing early tonight, as you probably know, because Liverpool are playing. Oh, they're in the live stream. If you're knocking about, say hello. There we go. Liverpool are playing. So we're playing, it's the first round of the Champions League, and we're playing AC Milan at Anfield in Liverpool. And me and Richie and another pal of ours, Damien, we're going to the away leg in Milan next month. I think it's next month. So we've got our flights and our hotel booked, but we haven't got tickets. So if anybody can help us with a couple of brothers with some tickets for the AC Milan Liverpool match in Milan, that would be just brilliant. So worst case scenario is we're going to go over anyway and just have a bit of a blast, get drunk, watch the match in a bar or something probably. But would really like to go to the match. Obviously, really want to go to the match. The other bit I can take it or leave it. I want to go to the game. So, yeah, so there's that. That's exciting, isn't it? What else? So, we're going to talk tonight about. I'm going to talk about Jeffery Donaldson, pretty much, and then I'm going to talk a wee bit about Queen Maeve and Blackberries. Right? It's important. It's important. In fact, it's about fucking Blackberries. The other stuff can. I'll talk about Jeffery Donaldson. I'm not going to talk. I'll not start on him just yet. I am going to start on him in a minute, but I'll not start the podcast with him. I'll start with this. So I'm still doing my updates. So I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to tell you about. I watched a couple of movies on Netflix the other night. Jeannie and I sat down early in the house to ourselves, and we got a bottle of wine and some beers, and we watched a couple of movies. And I made a note of it in my wee book that I have here, because the two movies were they were contrasted. And they were so the two movies, I'll tell you what they were. There was one, they're both on Netflix. No, I think one of them was on Netflix. I don't know what the other one was on. I don't know where we got it. It's on some streaming service. One of them is called Lansky, and it's about Meyer Lansky. And it's got the great actor whose name escapes me. It will come to me in a second. Harvey Keitel. Harvey Keitel plays Meyer Lansky. Who's Meyer Lansky? Meyer Lansky was a gangster in America in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all that. And in the movie, he's telling his side of his story to an author. So it intersects, it jumps back and forward in time. And it's very good. I enjoyed it a lot. And then the other movie, which we watched, I think we watched this movie first, is called Pig. And it stars Nicolas Cage. Now, Nicolas Cage wouldn't be a person whose career I would particularly be enamoured with. He does seem to make an awful lot of shite. But this one, I'd seen a review or something come up said Nicolas Cage's best movie in 20 years. And I read a brief thing. And it's very much an auteur-driven movie, so it's a writer-director type of movie. And it's very beautifully shot and slow-paced. And it's fucking brilliant. I absolutely loved it. If you're not into that sort of stuff, it's sort of an artier movie. What it's about is this sort of hermit type figure lives in the woods. He's a truffle hunter in Portland, Oregon, outside Portland, Oregon, in the woods there, the forests of Oregon, and somebody steals his pig, hence the name of the movie, Pig, and he has to go. He then goes on a journey to find it. And as is often the case with these lovely art house movies, I'm not going to call it art house, but it is arty. It's not about the pig. That's the what they use to drive the narrative forward, but it's about a lot more than that. And it's brilliant, an absolutely brilliant film. I would recommend it heartily. It's a 90-minuter. It's great. It's beautifully shot. Nicolas Cage is fucking fantastic in it. Again, wouldn't be someone whose career I would follow closely. I wouldn't think much of the man. I think he did a few good movies at the start of his career, and then after that I stopped paying attention. Maybe he's done great things in between. I don't know. But nonetheless, the reason that the two movies I'm mentioning them to you is because the two main characters, so the Nicolas Cage character is a quiet, very talented, and as you find out that he was quite the talent in his time, and a lovely, insular, thoughtful, and remember we were talking the other week about Taoism, or Taoism, so he would almost Taoist in his monkish, in his his way, and very, very good man, but a bit broken. And then over the course of the movie, you find out all that stuff and why he's like the way he is. But he's ultimately a likeable and admirable character. Whereas Lansky, about Meyer Lansky, which is a true story, is a man that is consumed by ego and greed, and is the most ruthless of, as it was possible for that era of gangsters to be. This guy epitomised that. He was as ruthless as any of them, if not more so. He set up an organisation called Murder Inc., which was, you probably heard of it, and in it, you pay a certain amount of money, and these sort of hitmen would go and murder someone for you, and it didn't matter. They didn't ask questions, and as I said in the film, it didn't matter how they did it. It didn't matter if they shot them or tortured them or chopped them into pieces. It didn't matter as long as it got done. So the two characters in the movie, I watched them back to back. Not that I'm recommending you do that, but if not, maybe you should. But the two characters in the movie were complete opposite ends of the spectrum. So you got the Meyer Lansky character, and you've got this Nicolas Cage's character. And the movies, both the movies are fantastic, by the way. Really, really good. So I wanted to tell you about that. And then we watched another movie last night, and this is one that I remember, you know how sometimes you mean to go and see a film and then you just don't get to go? Well, this is that film. I meant to go and see it. I remember this because my daughters went to see it and they liked it. And it's Zombieland Double Tap. You know, with Woody Harrelson, who else? Emma Stone. Who else is in it? That the dude that played Lex Luthor in those fucking awful films, Superman movies, Jesse something. But if you've seen Zombieland, comedy horror, you get the thing. They're in America, and a zombie apocalypse has broke out, and these group of people come together and try to survive a zombie apocalypse. Well, this is the follow-up. It's called Zombieland 2 Double Tap. And again, it's completely different from the other two movies that I spoke about, Lansky and Pig. It's a great laugh. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed it, and I was sort of going, I should have went to the cinema to see that. But if I was going to recommend one, if I was going to recommend one of them to watch, it would be Pig. That's right up my street. That I really like those sorts of films, auteur-driven, writer-director, very beautiful. Paced, nice and slow, very considered dialogue. Love it. So, what else? What else have I got written down here? Oh, I actually had a good week watching movies. I watched another one. Documentary. It's called Blood Brothers, and it's about the. I wonder, can I put it on screen? I think I have it. I do. I'll get it up here for you. Give me one sec. It's on my desktop. I know this. I'll tell you for why. There it is. Blood Brothers. Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali. And the relationship that they had. And it's a documentary on Netflix. Now, the reason that I have that on my screen, on my desktop, that picture, I didn't have it loaded into the file for this thing, is because the music in it is fucking awesome. So I went online and tried to. I went on to Spotify and all that to try and find if someone had made a playlist of the music, and they hadn't. So they'd. But someone had wrote an article with the songs from the film in it. There was only seven or eight songs. So I made the playlist. So I will put the playlist under the show notes. And it's called Blood Brothers, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, and I made a little playlist on Spotify. It's only 6 or 7 songs. That's all it is. It's in the movie. There was one that I couldn't find. And then there was actually one that wasn't listed in the article, but it was in the movie, and it was Louis X, which was a Louis Farrakhan, who was the predecessor, who was the teacher of Malcolm X and Ali. He used to be like a calypso musician, and he wrote a song called "White Man's Heaven is a Black Man's Hell." When he was a calypso, it was a big calypso song, and I know the Public Enemy did a version of it, but it wasn't quite. They used the lyrics rather than made it. So, but it was in the film, but it wasn't in the article. But it wasn't in the film as incidental music in the background. It was in the film as explaining who Louis Farrakhan was. So I made the playlist. So I will stick it in the notes, the show notes, and it's I'll read it out to you. We the People Who Are Darker Than Blue, Curtis Mayfield. Pusher Man by Curtis Mayfield. Redemption Song by Bob Marley and the Wailers. Celestial Blues by Rass and Roland Kirk, which is fucking awesome piece of modern sort of jazz. I'm Going to Leave You By Yourself by Eddie Harris, and Mood Indigo by Duke Ellington. And great songs, and I was delighted that I did that. So I'll throw that on, and you can maybe have a listen to that at your leisure. So there's 4 films, right? Lansky, Pig, Blood Brothers, Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, and for a bit of a laugh, Zombieland, Double Tap. And they're great. They're 4 really good films. I really enjoyed them all. And as I said, if I was going to recommend one, it would be Pig. Hey, Reverend Duffer, how's it going? There we go. So there we go. Wee bit of theme music coming up here again. So I just want... Oh! Updates. So yes, of course, I must tell you. What must I tell you? Let me get that off screen. The Northern Ireland Music Prize. Andy's album has been longlisted. Yay! I'm fucking delighted. But you can go to the website and you can vote for me to get shortlisted. So what all it means is I haven't won anything. It just means that my album has met the criteria to be longlisted, and then it goes forward to be shortlisted. So there's a panel of judges all within the music industry in Northern Ireland. So there's festival organisers and journalists and DJs and radio people and all sorts of people that managers and they're all on this sort of panel, and they get to vote. But they've allowed for one album. I think it goes down to like 6 or 8 albums, and they allow for one for the first time now is going to be nominated by a public vote. So if you could do that, go to nimusicprize.com or just Google Northern Ireland Music Prize, and if you could throw Irelandy a wee vote there for Northern Gothic, you'll see the list. It's on the front page there, and I would love to get nominated. I would love to get shortlisted, I should say. I would love to win too. Let's not fuck about here. But I don't expect to. But I would like to get nominated. But I would like to be shortlisted. Apologies. So there's that. And yeah, if you want to listen to the album, go into Bandcamp and Google it, Northern Gothic, Andrew McGibbon, Northern Gothic, and you can have a listen to the record. Don't even need to buy it. You can't get it on Spotify though, because I'm not doing that with this one, and it feels good. Might change my mind in future. Don't think so. And if I do, well, that's up to me, isn't it? So, what else? That's it. So that's all my updates. So we're going to talk about Jeffery Donaldson. Now, I'm going to make a slight change to the format that I do these things in, because let me just get the... I need to get a wee thing up on the screen here too. Just give me 1 sec for you. I hate this out. There we go. So, Sir Bumfrey. Pardon me. So, I'm going to make a slight change to the format, but one of the things that I've noticed about my pod that I don't like when I listen back at it, I kind of ramble, as is my wont to do, and that's fine. I don't mind that, but I would like to start with my thoughts written down properly and get those read out, and then if I get those read out, then it doesn't matter if I ramble after that, because I am my point is sort of made. And because if I listen back, then sometimes I go, I never said this or I never said that. So I'm going to start with that. So here we go. I'm going to read you my thoughts, and then we'll get into I have a couple of videos for you, and I have a couple of articles, and I'm going to be finishing about 7:45, 10 to 8, because I want to run in and watch the Liverpool match, by the way. So here we go. Jeffery Donaldson, the recently nominated leader of unionism, has indeed been given a quite literal poisoned chalice, highlighting unionism and its entire reason for existing as being one of supremacy, domination, and worryingly for us it seems, not only to be content but desperate to do the bidding of the Tory party, no matter how vacuous or vile its demands. In the 100th year of unionism being spawned into existence in order to create a majority in the House of Commons for a Tory party that's similar to the DUP Theresa May agreement, the DUP was able to provide a narrow majority which provided the DUP a once in two lifetimes opportunity to extract concessions that would benefit the entire population of Northern Ireland, the population that they continually claim to represent. Despite the fact that in the most recent Lucid Talk poll had them polling somewhere around the mid-teens behind Alliance and the UUP, and just as I predicted not so long ago, would see them coming in fourth if that poll turned out to be accurate in an election. The reality is that Jim Allister's TUV wouldn't be able to stand enough candidates to take the seats it would otherwise win, and between now and the next election, the election next year, the DUP could either end Stormont, which it is threatening to do, and we'll get into that, or at the very least will play the sectarian card in the worst possible way, trying to scare its electorate into believing the wolf of the IRA is at the door and ready to kick it in. The problem they have, as we all know, is that we all know what they've been doing this past decade or more. Did they extract concessions in any meaningful way from the Tories when they had them by the throat? No. Their conduct during Brexit was disgusting, sneering, and gleeful at the obvious failure that was about to befall Northern Ireland, the Northern Ireland they profess to love. And now, with Arlene gone, off to join the shit show that is GB News, Sir Jeff is left to try and herd the cats. The reality of the current political unionism is that when figures like Jamie Bryson, Moore Holmes and Jim Allister, who should all be considered marginal cranks, are stepping up as voices of the hard line, where is there left for the DUP to go? If they go to the centre, it's already taken by Doug Beattie's UUP and certain parts of Alliance. The only place they can go, and the only place that suits them, is to push farther right and continue scaremongering. despite the fact that we can all see the Emperor has no clothes. Loyalism had notions of the mass protests of Paisley in the 70s and the 80s, but it cannot organise a protest to save the Union from the dreaded Northern Ireland Protocol that is keeping our shelves full. Hilariously, Jamie Bryson and Moore Holmes took to Twitter a couple of weeks back to congratulate themselves for finding Enniskillen with the aid of a sat-nav for a protest which barely attracted 50 loyalists in a county full of Orangemen. One commentator on Twitter pointed out that to find Enniskillen from Belfast, you had to drive down the M1 to the Ballygolly roundabout and turn left. The brain trust of loyalism had to use a sat-nav. Unionism is a Python-esque dead parrot. We can do better. There is a certain serendipity of its failure coming in its centenary year. And that's what I wanted to say about that for now. I just wanted to get that out there. I wanted to say that, and then when I look back at this or consider this, when I won't feel like I've missed something. So, Sir Jeff, you can see on the screen there. Now, there's this is the point for me is if unionism had a legitimate stance, if it had a legitimate stance, if it could argue its corner, it would be more credible. But it can't. It can't argue its corner. This is the point. The point is the credibility of the unionism. Now, if you're not into the Queen, British establishment, the Empire, colonialism, what is there? Well, the NHS. That's a good thing. That's a great thing. It's being gutted like a fish. You almost can't use it anymore as an argument. It's still a fantastic institution, but it's not what you think it is. And is it enough? Let's say you're marginal. Let's say you're sitting on the fence. Is it enough to keep you there? I would argue no, because we can do that here. We can do better than that. We have to do better than that here. If we're going to win a border poll, we have to be able to do better than the NHS for Ireland. What the NHS should have been, and was always under attack from the day that it was thought of, what it should have been, we need to do it here, and we can do it here. There's no reason we can't do it here. This thing that we have on this island about, we have an inferiority complex. I talk about this a lot whenever I'm talking about my music and about the music industry. I actually spoke about it in a recent. We did a podcast with Paddy Glasgow for the Glasgowberry up in Draperstown there, the institution up there. And I talk about it in that, and about how the music, we have an inferiority complex. It's because of empire, it's because of colonialism. 800 years have been, first of all, they tell their own people that the people being colonised are inferior. And eventually the people being colonised believe it, of which there's many records of that all over the world. And we have this inferiority complex. We have it in the music, and what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the music industry is, you need to go. Anybody that's in the arts will tell you, you need to leave Ireland, be successful somewhere else, and then come back, and then everyone in Ireland goes, "Oh, I always loved them." That magical gig you played that had 50 people at it. There's fucking 500 people all over the island saying they were there, and that's what happens in Ireland, and we have that in us, and I hate it. I argue against it when I can. Like now, we can do anything that we want as a people, as an island. And we're better off together. We're stronger together. We're smarter together. We've got more resources together. There's nothing that we have that isn't better for us being together. So the NHS almost isn't an argument, provided that we step up and do the right thing. All the other stuff, I don't care for it. I don't care for it. I don't want any of it. So it's not enough to keep someone like me. And if you're marginal, it shouldn't be enough to keep someone like you. You know? So, again, it's to do with the ideology. And here's the ideology. On the screen you can see a picture of Jeffery Donaldson. Don't know if you can read it, but I'll read it out to you. And behind him is a superimposed tricolour, Irish flag, and a little map of Ireland in the middle. It says, I wish someone could show me any other example in the world where you have this kind, and he's talking about the Northern Ireland Protocol, where you have the border down the Irish Sea, right? Where you have this kind of border right down the middle of a country, an internal border within a country that separates one part of the country from another. And that is simply not acceptable. It is damaging to our economy, and we are not going to accept this. So much to unpack in that statement. Most of it is stupidity, but you can see what the stupid bit is, right? You don't need me to point out to you the ridiculousness of that fucking statement. He's talking about a border within a country. He probably said it on an island that is divided artificially. But this, again, this comes down to the ideology. Sir Jeff doesn't recognise that this is a divided country. They refuse to recognise. And that with this blinkered position is everything that they are driving forward. And it is ultimately what's going to lead them to their downfall. Right? Now, I'm going to read a little letter. Oh, don't tell me I didn't know, put it on. No, fuck's sake, I didn't. I'm going to have to... Sorry, give me 1 sec. So someone wrote a letter into the Belfast Telegraph, I believe. There it is. Just threw it up on screen. And now, there it is. You can see it. It's written by someone called Clive Maxwell. From Bleary in County Down. He'd probably get all sorts of fucking hate fired at him for writing this. But this is... And the reason that this is remarkable and the reason that he will get hate fired at him is because this is the sort of thing that... This is the way unionism needs to talk to itself. Because everybody else can see it. But unionism in its blinkered position refuses to acknowledge. And what are they going to call Clive? They're going to call Clive a Lundy. That get out of jail free card for the unthinking among us. Right? So, Clive says... Oh, there we go. So Clive says, the headline is, this is a letter to the editor. I'm assuming it's just a photograph actually went fired up on Twitter. For over 100 years, the unionist community has occupied the government benches and basically promoted the government line. Is that untrue? No. We settled down comfortably in that role. The union became our mantra and took on the trappings of a religious creed. Many still live by it. Almost everything we did was in reference to it. It was part of our DNA. In emphasising our Britishness to the exclusion of the history of Ulster and our culture, our history didn't begin in 1690, he says. Well said, Clive. We didn't realise we were sowing the seeds of our own demise and that it would come back to haunt us. It's a very important statement, that. In emphasising our Britishness to the exclusion of the history of Ulster and our culture, in brackets, our history didn't begin in 1690. We didn't realise we were sowing the seeds of our own demise and that it would come back to haunt us. Everything we needed, the state provided, and we became dependent on it, and it became our crutch. We never really questioned who we were, so we didn't have to dig deep and work at it. We took it for granted. We didn't need to think, and in time, that created a subculture. It was a luxury we could have done without. The middle class morphed into a fifth column who became the enemy within. They went out from us, but they were not of us. By contrast, Irish nationalism of all classes issued a rallying cry to their flag and assumed the role of opposition. They had to shift for themselves and made sacrifices. Through their schools, the church and the GAA, their hard work paid off. They have overtaken us, and we are left with a pathetic bleat, the Union. Dare I say it, and it may well be too late. I'll whisper it and risk being unpopular. We could learn from Irish nationalism. Or could we learn from Irish nationalism? We have now been thrust into the role of the opposition, and we are struggling to cope, and it doesn't come naturally to us. We have no leader, no mechanism to promote our culture, and no strategic plan. We are sinking in a quagmire of frustration, confusion, and despair. A once proud people, we have lost our dignity and self-respect. Under such dire circumstances, if we can draw on hidden reserves and not only manage to survive, but engage from a position of strength, it will be the measure of us. If nothing else, it will suss out who we are. That is a brilliant letter. That is a fantastic letter. And I'm delighted that it come from a unionist. It has to come from a unionist. And it has to happen. What Clive is saying here has to happen. Now, I could just talk about this letter for an hour because it's it nails so much. No leader, no mechanism to promote our culture, and no strategic plan. That's true. Couldn't be truer. There's no. Whenever people, leadership. You have to have leadership. Political leadership is essential. When you don't have it, you create vacuums, and into vacuums, fucking slime gets sucked. And within unionism at the minute, the slime of the Brysons and all the other shitheads, the idiots, and they are idiots, the rabble-rousers, into these vacuums, these people get sucked. The biggest, the most remarkable one that we all know about in recent times is the Donald Trump thing in America. Donald Trump wasn't elected because, as they're trying to say now, Susan Sarandon or the Green Party candidates wouldn't vote for Democrats and all. Donald Trump was elected because of a vacuum of authority and truth and genuine leadership. The whole America voted for a black man with a Muslim name and still ended up with right-wing policies, wars being fought. Barack Obama started more wars than fucking George W. Bush. He didn't start any bigger ones, but he started more of them. You know what I mean? So eventually people get fed up with this. They're like, fuck this, I'm not voting for this guy. I'm not voting for that woman. I don't care. And the threat of, if you don't vote for me, you're going to get the other, and the other's far worse. Well, in the instance in America, it got proven that what was far worse wasn't far worse. Donald Trump's a cunt, don't get me wrong. I'm not an apologist for him. Piece of shit. He should have been jailed years ago. I read books about that man before he was ever a politician. He bankrupted working class, middle class contractors for fun. It was cheaper not to pay. It was cheaper to let them take him to court than it was to pay them. That was a part of his old business plan. So for that reason alone, I always thought he was a vile monster. But to think that Donald Trump is the problem is to not understand the system. The system is the problem. The system in America is a corporate oligarchy. The oligarchs have taken over. The corporations have taken over. And when you don't understand the system as an electorate, when you don't understand what the system is, you create vacuum, or the political class create a vacuum when you haven't got that leadership. And this is what we're talking about with unionism. Ulster Unionism. There's no leader. Why is there no leader? Because their entire position has become untenable. Why has it become untenable? Because the Brexit that they promoted, as I mentioned at the start, and sneered at the rest of us for putting our hands up and saying, hello, this could be a fucking nightmare. They sneered at us for that. They laughed at us. Whenever I say that word, I think of Ian Paisley Jr. laughing on BBC outside the Houses of Commons on the green there. People knew. We all knew. All of us knew Brexit was a disaster for us, and we voted despite the effort that was put in. Despite the effort that was put in to get us to vote the other way, we voted to remain, and we got pulled out anyway. The people knew. We knew. We knew, despite what the money that was thrown at it, the campaign, we knew. So then what happens? The leadership, it cut its own legs. It cut itself out at its knees. It committed suicide in front of us. So then you go forward 3 or 4 years and you end up with fucking cartoons like Jim Allister, Jamie Bryson and Moore Holmes as the leaders of right-wing unionism, loyalism. And whose fault is it? It's not Sinn Féin's fault. Sinn Féin aren't doing anything. It's just letting unionism get on with it. Never interrupt your enemy when he's busy kicking himself in the balls. If unionism had a coherent idea beyond sneering, but with this letter from Clive Maxwell of Blairy, County Down, I thought Blairy was an Armagh. There you go. What this letter illustrates perfectly is at least Clive, but he's obviously not on his own, is starting to understand, or at least acknowledging, admitting that he knows, probably knew for years, but while everything was going unionism's way, they're happy to let that status quo continue. Now it's not going their way. Now there's utterances of the dreaded border poll and all these things. If Sinn Féin, I'll play you a little snippet from that. If Sinn Féin if there's an election tomorrow, it appears that Sinn Féin is going to be the biggest party. Unionism's not happy about this. Jeffery Donaldson of the Democratic Unionist Party is not no comprende.
If we end up in a situation where Sinn Féin are the largest party. I think that presents a real problem for unionism. I don't want to be in that place. I am prepared to go and put my case to the country. The DUP will fight that election on the basis that we want unionism to win. If we end up in a situation where Sinn Féin are the largest party, I think that presents a real problem for unionism. I don't want to be in that place. I am prepared to go and put my case to the country. The DUP will fight that election on the basis that we want unionism to win. If we end up in a situation where Sinn Féin are the largest party, I think that presents a real problem for unionism. I don't want to be in that place.
Fucking right, it presents a problem for unionism. But it's of unionism's own making. This is the point. And without that acknowledgement that Clive in his letter points out, without that acknowledgement that unionism is in a problem, but it's not Sinn Féin's fault. It's not Sinn Féin's fault that fucking unionism is in a shit show at the minute. Unionism's as an entire... I mean, the fact that it lasted 100 years, first of all, it wasn't meant to. It was envisaged that there would be United Ireland long before now. So they've done well. But the fact that... as I said, the fact that they've lasted this long is to their credit, you know. But to do it, they started fucking... I mean, let's not beat around the bush. The fucking troubles was started by unionism. All the first acts of violence was all committed by unionism because nationalists and Catholics were looking equal rights. So that's what started it. I'm not excusing anything that followed. I'm just saying. Don't be coming at me. So there's nothing that unionism wouldn't do in the past to maintain their status within the union. Now the difference is that maybe because the British establishment was still clinging to the idea of having an empire, they wouldn't have been so ready to let the North go. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong, but maybe it's not. But if that was the case then, it's certainly not the case now. The British establishment don't give a shit about the North of Ireland. Don't give a shit about Ireland. Don't seem to care about their own people, never mind us. And they will let us go quite happily. If they thought they could get away with it, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the only reason... don't fool yourself. The only reason people like Boris Johnson or any other British politician wouldn't just cut Northern Ireland loose, it's because of their own legacy. It's not because they love Northern Ireland or the north of Ireland or the 6 counties, the occupied 6, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's not because it's not for any other reason than that. So I think I've just got another video here and I haven't loaded it in. Give me a sec. No.
There are many businesses in Northern Ireland that rather like. There are many businesses in Northern Ireland that rather like the protocol, aren't there?
Well, there aren't that many, Ian, I have to say. I've travelled extensively across Northern Ireland and I've met a lot of businesses who are suffering as a result of the protocol. Yes, I do accept there are some businesses who support the protocol, but I don't believe that's a majority of businesses, and I would...
I'll be honest with you, even his voice annoys me.
There are many businesses in Northern Ireland that rather like the protocol, aren't there?
Well, there aren't that many, Ian.
Yeah, that's a load of bullshit. So there we go. So Clive Maxwell puts it very well. I think that's an important piece of what's the fucking word I'm looking for? Tell me, what's the word when someone writes you a letter? Evening, Davy Lannon, about your kid. What correspondence? So Clive's letter is an important piece of correspondence. That's the word I was looking for. Right? So onwards. So as I was saying, unionism as an ideology is rather fucked because it was so incoherent. It's so incoherent. It always was. The idea that the border. We all know. I'm not going to go over all this. A random line through people's houses, on all that stuff, right? So Sir Jeff. So they need to have a coherent message. They need to get their shit together. They need to convince. That's the word. They need to convince you and me that their idea is the best idea. Right? That sounds simple enough, doesn't it? As a whole. But you got to understand, when you're talking about unionism that has its roots in supremacy and domination, the thought of having to convince is difficult. It's a difficult concept. It must be a difficult concept because they failed to even attempt to convince. Let's convince these people that their best interests are served by being in the union. And now we're looking at, there was a few weeks ago, there was I mentioned the Lucid Talk poll in my opening comments. The Lucid Talk poll was fascinating. I should actually got it in. I'm glad I remembered. But the Lucid Talk poll was fascinating because in that age bracket, the 18 to 35, 34, 35 year olds, of which I am not, in that age bracket, there was something like, was it 49%? Oh, let me get this. Oh, I should have saved it. I think it was 49% of all voters would vote for Sinn Féin, or 18 to if there was. So the question is, if there was an election tomorrow, 49% of 18 to 35-year-olds would vote for Sinn Féin. When you added up all the nationalist parties, we're not including the Green Party or Alliance, despite what the DUP and the hard right would say. When you add up the Aon2, People Before Profit, Sinn Féin and the SDLP, the collective vote comes to something like 67% of 18 to 35-year-olds would vote for nationalist parties in an election in the morning. Now that's a staggering fucking number. And the reason that it's staggering is this. 67% of 18 to 35-year-olds in the north of Ireland aren't all Catholics and nationalists. Right? 67% of all voters in that age group are not Catholics, are not normally nationalists. You're talking about people that can go one way or the other, or you're talking about people that are unionists or come from a unionist background, or are Protestants who are voting to unite Ireland. Now that's a staggering statistic. That blew my fucking mind when I saw that. And this is the point. This is why unionism needs to convince, and it's struggling, because it's just mentally struggling with the idea that it has to convince you to stay in the union. And this is the problem. This is where unionism is. This is why, if they're going to have a border poll, they'd be better having it sooner rather than later, because as time goes on, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. But then they can't have a border poll because they'll get called Lundies by the hard right. But if they were smart about it, and I don't expect that they will be, because they haven't been smart about fucking anything. So I don't know why they would be smart about this all of a sudden. So here, right, I've got 10 or 15 minutes left to finish this. I'm not staying on longer than I have to, as you know, because I've got a fucking football match to watch. So, in this video, Sir Jeff.
There are many businesses in Northern Ireland that rather like the project.
Is on the Ian Dale show. This was last week, I believe. And he just lays his fucking whole clean off him. Watch this.
There are many businesses in Northern Ireland that rather like the protocol, aren't there?
Well, there aren't that many, Ian, I have to say. I've travelled extensively across Northern
Lies.
Ireland, and
That's
I've
a
met
lie.
a lot of businesses who are suffering as a result of the protocol. Yes, I do accept there are some businesses who support the protocol, but I don't believe that's a majority of businesses, and I would certainly challenge that. That is not my experience. All of the groups representing businesses across Northern Ireland are saying to the government, we need to see change. The chief executives of the 4 major supermarket chains in Northern Ireland all came out recently and said the protocol is harming our businesses. I'm every day facing
The protocol is harming their businesses because they didn't spend the last 4 years preparing for the Northern Ireland Protocol, which is what all the businesses that aren't harmed by Spar, Mace, Lidl's in the south, it's Aldi, and Aldi's moving into the north, of course. But, you know, Aldi would have got stuff from the UK before, and when they realised this was happening, well, fuck that, we'll get it somewhere else. These businesses aren't complaining. You're talking about Marks and Spencers and Sainsbury's, and who are they? They're backers of Brexit. The people that run those businesses backed Brexit. So they didn't prepare for Brexit. Least of all in Northern Ireland. England's worse. At least they've got access to they've got other options here. They don't have it in England. We all seen this. You see this, you just have to go on. You'll see it anywhere. Onwards.
Who are having problems with ordering goods from suppliers in Great Britain that were freely available to them just a few months ago. So I don't accept this narrative by some that it's all right, that there isn't a problem. The DUP is hyping something up that doesn't exist. No credible commentator believes that is the case.
So much shit in that statement. There's so much shit, and this is the fucking thing that's really it's what's confusing. It's sorry, not confusing. It's what's bewildering. It's about this accountability thing, and accountability seems to be gone within the political class. You know, the fact that Priti Patel, I keep going on about her, but the fact that that woman is still in a job, the fact that the Prime Minister of Great Britain, United Kingdom of Northern Ireland, is Boris Johnson. A fucking liar, philanderer, and, you know, I don't even want to. It's just beyond belief. It's staggering. It is staggering. There's no accountability within the political class anymore. But the fact that Jeffery Donaldson go on that show and lie. Now, I'm going, who's he lying to? He's not lying to me. He's not lying to anybody in Northern Ireland, because anybody in Northern Ireland knows that's not true. So who's he lying to? He goes on to an English radio programme to lie about the situation in Northern Ireland. Why? Why? I don't get it. He should be here trying to convince and make the case for the union, because he's a unionist. He's supposed to be a Democrat, but he's not happy. He's going to blame Sinn Féin if Sinn Féin end up the biggest party. Sinn Féin's vote share hasn't gone up that much. The DUP's has collapsed. How the fuck is that Sinn Féin's fault? But Sir Jeff decides to go on to an English radio programme to argue, to lie. Now, what do you mean lie? I will tell you fucking what I mean lie. Here we go. Check this dude out. This is an article from the Irish News by Ryan McAleer, and this was from a few days ago. The protocol creates massive opportunities for Northern Ireland businesses, says grocery boss. The head of sales at the North's biggest grocery supply operation has said the protocol creates massive opportunities for businesses in Northern Ireland. The dogs in the street know that. We all know that. If you've been listening to my podcast, you know I've been banging on about this, and I know you know this. I know I'm preaching to the converted here. We're in a unique opportunity. And the brain trust of fucking unionism and loyalism is trying to get us to cut our own throats, to vote against our own economic interests. God knows we don't have enough of those, enough economic opportunities. And they're asking us to vote against it. For what? Well, if you want us to vote for this, convince us. What is it you want us to believe? What do you want us to do that we're going to vote against this? We have to have at least equal on the other side of the scale. It has to be at least equal on the other side of the scale. In fact, I think if they were at least equal, they would if a border poll happened in the morning, they would win it. The union would win. But it's not. You're asking us to vote for less. How can we vote for less than what we've already got? We've got the least of all. Of all the people in the United Kingdom and Ireland, we've got the less. We've got the least. And the Ulster Unionism is asking us to choose to have even less than that. So, the article, Paddy Doody, that's a great name, Paddy Doody, from the Henderson Group, was speaking after the company, which supplies around 500 Spar, Vivo and Euro Spar stores in the north, recorded a turnover of £957 million. Jesus Christ. During 2020. That's a staggering amount of money. That's almost £1 billion, is it? Fuck me. The mollusk-based business inched closer to becoming, there you go, Northern Ireland's next £1 billion company on the back of the 7.3% rise in grocery sales during the pandemic. Okay, well, during the pandemic, everyone was shopping a bit more, weren't they? But anyway, not the point. But an extra 18 million in COVID-19 costs, mostly within the 100 retail stores it owns and operates itself, coupled with a slump in the group's fuel and food service businesses during lockdown, saw Henderson's end 2020 with a pre-tax profit of 28 million, some 11% down on 2019. Speaking to the Irish News, Mr. Doughty said after the rollercoaster 2020, the food and retail industry has been hit by a multitude of supply issues in 21. Some of the issues have been COVID related, some Brexit related. Some have just been down to the global economy. There are so many different things at play. He revealed the Henderson's Group had been notified of some confectionery companies preparing to cut back supply this Christmas due to shortages of HGV drivers and difficulties in securing raw materials and ingredients. HGV drivers, we know all about that. The Tory government is apparently they're making changes to the HGV test. I don't know if this is true. I heard you have to, they're not even going to do a reverse. You don't have to reverse as a part of the test. Can't see that causing any fucking problems out in the road, well. So, the GB supply has potential to become problematic, in which case we source from the EU, he said. Despite the ongoing political fallout over the Northern Ireland Protocol, Mr. Doughty said businesses see a significant advantage by having a foot in both camps in terms of the EU single market and the UK's internal market. There is a danger that there will be a reduction in the range available because the free movement of goods has ended. That reality, and that's the reality, and that's what Brexit is, which Britain voted for, which we did not. Here in the north, we didn't vote for that. Great Britain is out of the EU. We're still in a unique situation in Northern Ireland that we've got a foot in both camps. That creates massive opportunities. It really does. And our problem is that the protocol has become a political issue between political parties. We as a business are apolitical, and almost every business is apolitical. The sales director described Henderson's Group's high-profile deal to supply Sainsbury's in January this year as an opportunity born out of the Northern Ireland company's forward business thinking, etc., etc. The new warehouse and mollusk, and then Brexit. So I'm not going to read it all. Now, I will say this. He is confirming what we all knew. Right? We knew this. I know you knew this. I know you knew this. I know you thought to yourself at one point, over either somebody said it to you, maybe it was me, maybe it was somebody else, and maybe you came to it of your own volition. And you thought, wait a minute here. we're going to be in the EU and the United Kingdom. Surely that's a good thing. Then you start to compound over time. Things start to come into the mix. You start to realise, oh, wait a minute, the UK is not in a great place, or Britain isn't in a great place here. All these Polish guys and all these Bulgarian guys and all these guys that are they're all going back. Now, actually, just recently, there's reports of British nationals living in, say, France or Italy or whatever. They can't bring they're married to a French girl or an Italian girl, they got kids, whatever. They can't get them into the country. They can't get them into the UK. Because the Home Office is being so fucking fundamentalist about this. So then at some point all this starts to compound, and you start to go, oh, whoa. This is a part of the reason, not the whole reason, but it must be a part of the reason why 67% of 18 to 35-year-olds are voting for nationalists in the next election if they're given an opportunity. Despite not 67% of the population at that age, that demographic, being Catholics or nationalists. Naturally. This is all compounding. So what's unionism's answer? Bring down Stormont. But the IRA. This is not Sinn Féin's fault. This is not nationalism. You could just sit back and watch these people fight with each other. It's pathetic. And you want us to vote for that? Vote for less. Choose less. No. My kids won't choose less. When we were when I was growing up, and a lot of people listening to this and watching this, when we grew up, we had no choice. We had just being alive was a fucking bonus sometimes. You felt that way anyhow. My kids aren't going to vote for less. So there's that article. Oh, again, I'm going to blast through. I've got a couple of minutes left. I'm just going to finish up on this. One where
there are many businesses in Northern Ireland.
I bloody did have that video loaded in. I just want to make sure that I've hit everything. Yeah. Bell tail ladder. I did have it loaded. I'm a dick. Oh, that was the other one. So choose less. We're being asked to choose less. What are being asked to choose less for? Because of all the great opportunities we're going to get within Northern Ireland. This goddamn tunnel between Scotland and Northern Ireland that's been bandied about for decades now. That everybody knows. Again, everybody fucking knows this is bullshit. Despite the fact that it's apparently, I've read a few articles about it being engineering-wise next to impossible. Although, I don't think it is impossible. I do think it would be possible because some of the fucking engineering feats that have been that go on in this planet are truly staggering. But why the fuck would the British people want to spend £15 billion on a tunnel between the north of Ireland and Scotland? It's a fair question. And the answer to the question is they won't, and they don't, and they never were going to. But we're still supposed. So here, I'm going to blast through this real quick. It's the Irish Times headline: Johnson's stupid Northern Ireland to Scotland tunnel to be scrapped under spending review. It's dead, at least for now, says official about the £15 billion plan for Landlink. And now, this is the bit that you're going to hear. Now, if this gets brought up, you remember this. You're going to hear unionism say, oh, it's no. They said it's dead for now. It doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. Watch. I bet you hear that. So, a tunnel between Northern Ireland and Scotland and a scheme that backs unemployed people to start their own companies. They can't even fucking do that. Never mind the fucking stupid tunnel thing. And by the way, just on that, I would love to see the tunnel. Tunnels and bridges, I'm in favour of these things. These are brilliant things. A tunnel between Northern Ireland and Scotland and a scheme that backs unemployed people to start their own companies have fallen victim to a crackdown by the British government's finance ministry as it grapples with self-imposed public spending limits. Now, they spent 38 billion on a field test and trace system, track and trace system. 38 billion. God knows how many other billions they just siphoned off to their fucking cronies, which will all come out in the wash eventually, but it's a significant amount. A self-imposed public spending limit. That's what they've done here now. Boris Johnson's plan to build the world's most stupid tunnel linking Scotland and Northern Ireland, estimated to cost at least 15 billion. Well, that's true. You know, whenever they go into these things, the public consultation, it'll go, it's 15 billion. By the time they start fucking breaking rocks, it's going to be double that. So it has been described as dead by government officials briefed on spending negotiations ahead of Rishi Sunak's budget next month. The Chancellor gave Cabinet colleagues until Monday evening to finalise their bids for public spending and has warned them he wants to put public finances on a sustainable path in the medium term. Unfucking believable. So I'm not going to read any more of that. It's all. I will put the link in the show notes. Let's make sure I've got that bookmarked actually. Yeah. So there we go. So there we go. This is our options. We've got options. We can choose to be a part of that, or we can make a new world for ourselves. I choose the latter. And I've heard a few people have said to me, a few friends have said to me, what about, loyalists? They're worried about loyalist violence. Of course, it's the potential's there. Always is. It's not. I don't think it's significant. It's not. Who are they going to fight with? They've no enemies. We've got political opposites. We've got no enemies. No one's fighting. There's no war. It won't start back again. The conditions that started these things way back in the 60s, they don't exist. The British aren't going to get involved. I hope not, anyway. But there we go. So, fuck me, there's me. I've gone right over again, and I can't stay on because I'm going to talk about this class thing. Queen Maeve. Right? So it is real quick. We'll throw it out real quick. Because as I said, I have to go. I wonder can I get that a bit bigger? So there we go. So unionism is in a bad place, but unionism is in a bad place of its own making. Let's not try and kid ourselves here. This is not. No one's done this to them. Oh, what have I just done? Oh no. No one's done this to them. They've done it to themselves. They had the upper hand. They had the whip hand for many years. They had the upper hand for many years, and they weren't able to make it work. We got a good run at it. 100 years. No. Time to move on. So, here we go. I like to finish on a bit of culture. So here's this, tonight's one. Queen Maeve. Right? So Queen Maeve, Irish folk. This is a Twitter account I follow called Queen Maeve. Fine crops of blackberries this year. And so there fucking is. Have you come in for a walk? The hedgerows are burdened with them. So next time you go for a walk, make sure you bring a wee plastic bag in your pocket, and you will go home with barrels full of these things. Make sure you pick them before the 31st of October. The puka spoils them on Halloween night. Didn't know this. Isn't this fucking brilliant? I love this. So remember we're talking about the puka, the mischievous spritey thing in Irish culture, Irish folklore, mythology. So you can see there on the screen, there's a, well, if you can see it on the screen, it's a picture of a horse underneath a fine crop of blackberries. But sometimes the puka is displayed as a horse. And that great statue that I told you about down south, that was denounced from the pulpit, which was fucking fantastic as well. He had a horse's head, didn't he? Although he was quite grotesque looking, but fucking fantastic if you ask me, as you well know. So the puka spoils them on Halloween night. Some people say he spits on them, and other people says he does something worse. Ha ha! So the puka pisses on the blackberries on Halloween night, so make sure you get them. 31st of October. Although we're only mid-September now, and I'm not joking, the hedgerows are full of blackberries, ready to go. What I suggest you do, which is what we're doing, we've got, Jeannie's doing it tomorrow, so Darren, my friend Darren Matthews is coming down, and our Desi, we're going to go for a swim in the loch, and Jeannie's making blackberry and apple pie, and we're going to have lunch and blackberry and apple pie afterwards, just out of the oven. Isn't that nice? So you should do that, and it's really easy to do. Get a couple of cooking apples from your local fruit and veg shop, and a bag full of these. Wee short crust pastry recipe. You know how to make that piece of piss. Into the oven. Cannot go wrong. Can't go wrong with this stuff. It's fucking easy. So, who's Queen Maeve? Here we go. So I'm going to read this, and then this is me done. But I'm nearly done. The match is going to start in 5 minutes. So, the Queen Meave of the province of Connacht was the most famous queen of Ireland. She was a warrior queen living in approximately the 1st century BC, who was once considered a historical queen, but is now considered to be mythological. She is most famous as a protagonist in the story The Celtic Raid of Cooley, the Tónbo Coola, an adversary of Cuchulainn, the legendary Celtic hero. Maeve lived in Sligo, in County Sligo in Connacht, and there were many monuments which are linked to her name. She was named after the Celtic goddess of intoxication. Ooh, I didn't know that. I shall be drinking to her, the Celtic goddess of intoxication, very soon when I open a couple of beers. First she married Conor MacNessa of Ulster, but they were not compatible. So her sister Ethna married him instead. She then married Connacht chieftain called Al, who also did not work out. Ooh. So finally she was married to Alal, a son of the King of Leinster. Maeve also frequented the area in Roscommon known as Rathcrogan. The area was called Crochan in ancient times, and she was said to hold entrance to the other world, now known as the Cave of Cats. In many accounts, the accomplishments of Queen Maeve are very similar to those of the goddess Maeve. Therefore, there is confusion over which of them is mortal and which is mythological. There is also a Maeve in the province of Leinster called Maeve Lethderg, meaning red side or half red, who married 9 men in order to give them kingship of their territories. Fair play to her. The ultimate sacrifice, if you ask me. This tale sounds more like the goddess Maeve, who conferred sovereignty on the kings by ritual intoxication and then a marriage to them. Should do that. We do that. We still do that. Conferred sovereignty on kings by ritual of intoxication. Get everybody drunk and then. So Maeve murdered her sister Clothra, ooh the bitch, while she was pregnant with Forbade, son of Conor MacNessa. Clothra's baby survived this, and when he grew up, he murdered Maeve in revenge. Saw that coming, didn't you? Well, Maeve didn't, but you did. It was said that he hit her with a slingshot of hard cheese while she was bathing in a lake on the island in the Loch Ree, County Roscommon. Huh. Which one of these 3 women called Maeve is the real Celtic queen? I guess we'll never know for sure, but folklore gives us the following information about our subject. Queen Maeve was also known as Oh, there's 40 different versions of her name. She was the daughter of Aku Fadlak and Kruka. Her oh right, yeah. So there we go. We'll call that. And she died on Inchclern Island, Loughrea, County Roscommon, by the hand of her nephew, Forbade Forbend. That's a very peculiar name. But what a class story. Is that picture? Oh no, it's not going to come up. Ah, there we go. So what a class story. So we're going to give the last word of tonight's podcast to Queen Maeve, who lived in the 1st century BC in Connacht, Sligo. Fine crops of blackberries this year. Make sure you pick them before the 31st of October, or the puka spoils them on Halloween night. Some people say he spits on them, and other people say he does something much, much worse. Go pick your blackberries, everybody. Good night.